All right, I think we're live and recording.
All right. Well, I'm Greg Marshall with Fiture Marketing, and
I'm AJ Lewis. What's going on, everyone?
we wanted to actually discuss a topic that I think was very interesting, and we were kind of going in the same direction, same path, and we were noticing the same trends. That Russell Brunson, shout out to Russell Brunson and Ryan Pineda, also a baseball player, I think, based out of Vegas. Those guys are both doing huge things in their businesses, and let's start with the first topic. So, one of the first things that I got out of the interview was, Russell Brunson basically saying the cost of traffic has significantly increased from what it used to be, right? 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. And he was kind of discussing how he used to get leads for $1, and now they're like 10, which I still think is pretty good. But that it's just mind blowing that he used to get them for $1, which is how he was able to scale so fast, in my opinion, based on what he's saying. And I wanted to ask you, AJ, what are some things that you're seeing with paid traffic, and what did you take away from the paid acquisition model?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that Russell Brunson said that really stuck with me is he was like, "Yeah, we're doing $100 million a year, and I'm trying to figure out ways to get more organic traffic or free traffic because the cost of traffic is going up so much, and that it's getting harder and harder to be profitable." And so I think we're seeing that as well, for our business and things like that. But I think the big takeaway is how can you be more strategic, and how can you increase your average cart value, or how can you make more money per sale, and then how can you increase conversions? How can you get more of the traffic that you are getting to your site or to your funnel to buy or to opt in or whatever else? Because I think that's where the focus should shift, because the traffic cost is not going to go down.
No.
It's only going to keep going up. So you're not going to be able to fix that part of it. How can you fix the other part of it and maximize your cart value and maximize your conversions?
Well, it's funny. I had a discussion with one of our clients today, and I said, since the cost of traffic and everything's going up, I said there's actually opportunity in this. The first thing is the opportunity of people seeing that it becomes more difficult and start leaving the market, just like the stock market. When things start to become tougher or bad, they all leave. Now you could look at that and say, I should be scared too, and I should also quit. Or you could look at the flip side and say, this is going to be the greatest opportunity ever, because all these people are going to leave the market, but there's still customers that need to be served. And so whoever has the guts or the courage to just keep going, keep doing it, is going to be able to grab a whole lot of market share. The second thing that I said, which I kind of said it in a jokingly way, but I do honestly believe it, because I remember the 2007, 8, 9 like financial crash, and selling during those times, is I said, may the best salespeople win. And what that essentially means is, when things are easy and, free money's being handed out, the economy is great, inflation is low, interest rates are low, everyone can get money, it's not very hard. Anyone can be good at that as long as they show up, right? But when it becomes more challenging and people don't have as much spare cash to just kind of dish out, they're going to be much more selective with who they give it to and why they give it to you. And that's why I say, may the best salespeople win, because you're going to have to give more effort, more thought, more creativity is going to have to happen in order to get more sales, because it's not as easy. People don't just have, a stimulus check from the government that's just laying around, an extra couple thousand. Well, if that's the case, yeah, I'll buy this extra shirt. Yeah, I'll buy this TV. Yeah, I'll buy this. I don't need it. It's free money anyways. That's the mentality of the consumer. But then when you strip that all away and you increase inflation tremendously, that's when people start saying, well, maybe I shouldn't buy this. Maybe I don't need that extra t-shirt or that extra TV. Maybe I should kind of shrink and constrict what I'm doing. And so that's what I think is going on currently right now when Russell Brunson was talking about the price of traffic, because if you think about it, the price of traffic, of course, will also go up each year because of the stimulus checks. That also means more people have more money to invest in ads. You see what I mean? And so there's more competition, more people starting. Like I noticed during the pandemic and those times, I noticed during those times that there was an increase in a lot of people starting Shopify businesses, e-commerce. They're doing, selling stuff online. And because of that, more people enter the market and they started to see some success. Now I believe you're starting to see the people who did see the success start to maybe jump out because it is becoming more challenging.
Yeah, and you reminded me of a couple things as you were speaking. Number one is I think the market is much more mature nowadays. I'll give you an example of what I mean. So back in the day, people would go to funnels and they had no idea what they were, how they worked. So you were able to capture people in this trap essentially and
Yep.
take them on this journey, and they were unaware. But I remember talking to my old CFO at my last company, and he was telling me that when his wife goes to an e-commerce store, she puts in her email and she abandons the cart, and she specifically waits until the third day because she knows that they're going to present their best offer on
Yep.
the third day, and that's when she decides to buy. So the market is maturing, which means that the big promises, the funnels, all these little hacks and things, people have seen them a million times by now. So those things aren't going to work. And so the thing that you got to do is advertising. I think a lot of people see it as like a magic bullet, or like it's going to make me a millionaire overnight because I turned on these ads. But the truth is, it just puts a spotlight on your business. Now, if your business was a restaurant, as a really simple example, and you had, big sign, come eat delicious, gourmet steak, right? But people walked in and it smelled really bad, and it was all dark, and the ground was sticky, and there were stains all over the place. People wouldn't want to eat there. So you might do a great job of advertising and getting people to enter, but then they're going to leave and they're not going to spend any money with you because the experience or the perceived outcome was negative. And so it's literally the thing that I think a lot of people don't think about, but it's probably the most important nowadays, is how can you make that restaurant seem like a five-star experience, a five-star, dining place or whatever. How can you make your website feel like that, seem like a five-star place where people are going to go and get the exact outcome they're looking for? Everything's going to be smooth. How can you give people that feeling so when you do get traffic to your store, you can get 3 out of 100 to buy from you, or you can get 30 or 50 out of 100 to give you their information, because that's going to do more for your business than making one ad that's slightly better than the other one.
Well, and what's funny is as we move into these more I guess challenging times for people who don't want to do the extra work, right? For people who are passionate about this, people who are all in, ready to change the atmosphere, you just adjust. And you and I being former athletes, we know, hey, when it gets hard, that doesn't mean we quit. That doesn't
Exactly.
mean you just stop playing the sport that you're playing. Instead, you have to just adjust. And coach says you got to run more to get the bigger benefit, then that's what you got to do. And
Yep.
so I feel like when you look at the landscape, one of the things I can see that's going to change, the behavior of actually caring about your customers and relationship marketing will be more important than ever during times where people are a little bit scared or don't spend as much. And the reason is because when things are easy, it's very easy to take your customers for granted. Very easy to just say, "Oh, I'll just get another customer if they leave." "Oh, it's so cheap, it doesn't matter. I'll just outbuy the customers that are leaving." But when it starts to tighten up, watch what's going to start happening. You're going to start hearing a lot more people talking about retention, and we already heard it so far. Retention, customer satisfaction, customer service, and it's almost like, oh, now that it's harder, now as a customer I matter. But when it was easy, you weren't paying attention to me, right? And that's kind of the overall theme that I think is going to happen. And you'll find that with AI also being a part of this, we have to make sure we're utilizing AI very specifically, because we have to be careful to make sure that we're not making our relationships too impersonal and sounding like we don't care. Because I think when people get scared, they look to other people to make them feel safe and secure. I don't think any machine or robot can replace that, right? And so as these things get a little bit tighter, people are going to lean to like, who can lead me in the right direction and make sure that I don't like lose everything I've worked so hard for, or lead me in the direction that's going to actually help grow and build my business. And so I think this is a good time to start investing in relationships and personalization, making it to where customers feel like you are genuinely interested in their actual results and their experience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think, the thing that you said earlier is, when things get tight, the best salesperson's going to win.
Yes.
And I think that this is something we talk about internally all the time is, hey, yeah, we sell the customer, you get the customer, but that's not the end of the sales job.
Just the beginning,
selling,
baby.
it's just the beginning. Yeah, you're selling every day to keep them and to keep them happy. So I think that's going to be a big opportunity for people is if you have e-commerce store, are you sending emails every day? Are you putting out offers? Are you doing things on socials? Are you doing new drops with new products, new offers, etc.? Are you actively doing things to keep people engaged? If you're a lead gen, do you have great follow up? Do you have a great sales process, a great sales system, a great offer? And then do you have a way to get repeat business, or do you have a way to get referrals from your customers? And all those things, one little piece, but you take all those pieces and you amplify it, and you get an exponential effect.
Well, I think too, as you were speaking, I just kept thinking, are you actually talking to your customers? Are you having a relationship with them? Are you going back and forth and making them feel like you're on their team, or can understand their story, or just creating an overall feeling of a strong relationship culture? And that could be done through ecom. That could also be done just for lead gen. I mean, at the end of the day, we can never forget that just because we're doing business on a computer, that doesn't make the person buying our stuff a robot or
Yeah.
just a number on a spreadsheet. It's still a human being. And so you're still in the relationship marketing business, whether you think you are or not. And if you don't actually invest in that, I think you're going to have a challenge when things tighten up, because people, like I said, I spoke with some customers today, and they're kind of going through it as well. And hey, sales have been down a little bit. What do we do? And we communicated and said, listen, your system and everything you're doing is working just fine. But what you're going to have to do is invest more time into servicing them better, taking that extra step that maybe you didn't have to take 2 years ago, to make sure that your follow up is tighter, to make sure that they get on your webinars, to make sure that they take those next steps, make sure they take your upsell offers, make sure that you're actually calling them, and make sure the service is good. Like, these are the little things, the details that are going to separate the businesses from the people that are not in business. And it's just simply, it really comes down to just effort and focus on details. If you focus on those things, I honestly believe you'll be just fine, because I personally went through that during the financial crisis, selling personal training at that time, which is a complete luxury when everyone is as broke as they possibly can be. And during those times, I actually broke every sales record during those times. And I fully believe that that made me a better salesperson and a better business person, because that taught me a valuable lesson, which is, just because the economy's tight or people have less money to spend does not mean they will not spend it. It's just that they will not spend it with you if you don't give them a compelling enough reason to do so, right? And what I focused on that entire time, and this is where I learned this lesson, was it's all in the relationship. During times where essentially you can call it depression times, right? Economy goes down, you've got inflation goes up, people start to feel somewhat depressed, because they're like, I have less money to spend, or if I have it, I'm scared. All I hear all day and night is negative news on TV, on the news, on the radio, my podcast. Everyone's afraid. And so what they're looking for is a way out, a way to feel positive and an emotional support. And that's where I learned that that's the skill set that you're going to want to have when things tighten up. And so I think you'll be doing your business a disservice if you don't focus on that. So if you have a company and you're seeing a decline in sales or a decline in anything, especially right now, you should use that as an immediate light bulb to say, I need to step up my relationship game and start showing people that I want to work with them. I want to be here for them. We're going to ride through this together and we're going to make it happen. And by the time we get out of this, we're going to be better than we've ever been. And that's what I think is the key.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that it's really just we talk about this a lot, especially as athletes, but it's back to the basics. It's back to the fundamentals. The blocking and the tackling, or the
Yeah.
catch and the hitting, right? So I think that for a lot of business owners right now, it's kind of like, what was easy is no longer easy.
Yep.
And this was expressed by, even the guys that we talked about, Russell Brunson. And the thing that you got to do is do the fundamentals better. And if
Yep.
you do the fundamentals better, that will carry you through, to the other side. And more specifically, I think that, before, like you talked about earlier, there was a lot of luxury purchases. So,
Yes.
I got an extra $1,000. I'm going to go buy, the PlayStation 5. I'm going to go buy my kids some new shoes,
I'm going to buy a
whatever.
billion NFTs.
Yeah, NFTs and Apple Watch. And now, people living paycheck to paycheck, or maybe they're struggling or whatever else, or maybe your customers are more wealthy individuals, and maybe they're putting their money in the market, or maybe they're, holding back to be able to have more spending power as things start to decline even further. So even though there's still people out there that do have spending power, et cetera, they're still going to take more time to consider whether or not this is the best use of my energy, which is money, money, energy. And so it comes back to the same thing we've been talking about, but better job of selling.
Yep.
How can you sell better? And I think a lot of people don't like the word sales, or they don't feel like they're salesperson or whatever. But the truth is that, I'll give an example. We have a new client that sells luxury blankets. So, her blankets are a couple $100, 150, 200, etc. And I asked her the story of why she decided to start this business. And she told me that she bought a blanket that was $300. And when she received it, she was so excited. And when she opened it, it just didn't feel right. Like it was too thin, and it was, it was soft, but it just didn't do what she needed it to do. And so she felt she got ripped off because she spent all this money on this blanket and it didn't do what she needed to do. So she went and figured out how to create it herself, how to solve her own problem. And what I told her is, that is the story that's
Yeah.
going to sell other people on why they should use your product versus other options. So a lot of times with selling, it's not you being this, Wolf of Wall Street guy, or, what's his name? I forget, the name's skipping my mind. But it's more about you being passionate about your product or service, and being able to demonstrate to people, whether through an actual demonstration, through a story, through a personal narrative, whatever it is, on why this is such a beneficial thing for how it's going to impact their life. And if you look at Russell Brunson and you see how he's sold ClickFunnels, which I think they said they're doing $100 to $200 million a year in
Yep.
sales, is through stories.
Yep.
That's his whole sales method, is by telling stories that change people's beliefs patterns. So really, I think it might be a good time to start coming back to say, why did I start this business? Why should someone, choose me versus other options? And then using that as your messaging for your ads and your social and all those kind of things.
Yeah. I mean, and I think too, now is the time to invest in your sales training, your messaging. I think I think because algorithms have become so good, especially in the past, You could get away with kind of putting lackluster messaging and very little low effort, low attention to detail sales stuff. And it would work because the pixel actually was doing all the work, right? It was actually finding the perfect person and they were buying. And then, of course, money's plentiful and people could have plenty of money to spend, right? But now you're not going to be able to do that. And I think investing in sales training, investing in messaging, investing in how to craft what you need to say in order to get people to buy is going to be more important than ever, because if you're trying to develop relationships, well, relationships really is sales. And sales is not a bad thing. Sales is a good thing. All it is communication. You're able to exchange value to value and a good, strong transfer of energy and enthusiasm where people can go, I feel positive. I want to make something happen. I can see the value that you're presenting to me. I want to exchange this money. And your value is you get the money, they get the value. And
Yep.
that's really all it is. And I think if you invest in sales training, invest in getting a stronger and better message, you can have a much easier and better time getting more customers and keeping more customers. Because, like we said before, the sale doesn't end once they sign the contract. Once they buy your t-shirt, that's only the beginning. And if you start to treat every interaction as this is me selling them to keep buying from me, this is me selling them to stay on top of whatever it is that we're working on. Because if you think about it, the best thing a customer can do if you're doing a good job is to keep sticking around with you, right? Because you're providing value, you're providing solutions if you're in a service-based business. And if you have products, you're providing entertainment, you're providing something fun, something relaxing, an escape. That's what you're actually providing when you're selling products like that. And so if you think about how can I keep reselling them because they need to be sold, because there is a value for value exchange here, then you're going to be able to have a much more sustainable business. It's going to feel a lot easier. And yeah, naturally, it doesn't feel like not everyone is born a salesperson. And it feels a little bit, you got to break out of those beliefs that people have taught you that sales is bad, sales is manipulation, sales is tricking someone to doing something they don't want to do. It's none of that. Let me just put one word in front of it. That's what bad sales is. That's what unprofessional sales is. Real professionals, real pros sell solutions. They build relationships. They have a win-win scenario, value for value exchange. And so that's what I think needs to be the focus moving forward. And that's where the best salesman will win.
Yeah, and one kind of litmus test is someone else selling the same thing I am and making more money than me? Because if so, that means they're probably doing a better job of selling, right? And so if someone else could do it in your same industry, then you can do it too.
Yep.
It's just you just gotta figure out what makes you unique and how you can communicate that. And then one thing I was thinking about is like, we're both former athletes. We've said that a couple times. But, when I was a defensive coordinator coaching high school football, the thing that would, we can win a game 35-7, and I would be upset about that 7, and I would be upset about the 150 rushing yards that we gave up. I would be upset about the little things that weren't perfect, right? And so the thing that I got to remind myself of, and you remind me of all the time, but I think it's important for people listening to remind themselves of, is that you got to still look at the victories, and
Yes.
you got to look at, so yeah, maybe maybe you created great ads and you have a lot of people clicking over and you're just not getting the purchases. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean that you lost the game. It means that now you got to fix the next thing so you can, perform better. And then, maybe like, okay, now you get the conversions happening and now you're not making enough money. So now you got to figure out how can I get more money every time someone buys. So it's like, yeah, you can look at the little statistical categories and criticize them or whatever, but the real goal is to win the game. And so you got to look at the big picture and look at each little thing along the way and say, how can I get this to perform? Okay, I got that. Now how can I get this to perform? And if you do that and you spend your time focusing on that instead of like the 150 rushing yards, your one thing, that's probably going to do more for your business than being upset about, I didn't get enough. I had 500 people click and I got no sales. My business is a failure.
Well,
So
you know what? I think too, a lot of it has to do with mindset.
yeah,
Uh, I had a call earlier today where I said, many people, and we talk about this just in our check-ins with between us. Many people lose sight of they're going in the right direction, and they believe that they should lose the 100 pounds in 30 days. They believe that, but logically they know that's not possible. If you ask them to separate that and go, hey, can that person lose 100 pounds in the next 30 days? Everyone would say no, right? But if you put them into the situation, now suddenly there should be an exception
yeah,
because they're in a situation. So they should lose 100 pounds, but not everyone else. And that
yep,
is the furthest from the truth, which is business takes a long time, a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of investment, smart decisions. And I think the key is everyone has to understand you need to be building sales systems, marketing systems for growth for the long term. And really that's you got to do whatever it takes, whatever is necessary to keep you trending in the right direction and then optimizing as you go. And one of the big hacks that you have to do, and I told this to our client today, is you have to be a master at figuring out how to keep yourself positive and motivated. And that's why you need to celebrate those little wins. Because if you become a master, like most people are, of how to get themselves demotivated, unexcited, yeah, but this is broken. Yeah, that's not working. Everyone's a master at that. That
yeah,
that gives you no value. That you bring no value to the marketplace. You're doing that because everyone else can do that. That's easy. What you need to do is be different and focus on how can I get myself to feel positive every day, whether the plan worked the way I envisioned it or not. There's always a positive thing to be picked up and learned from every situation, whether that, and I'm going to laugh because, we had a situation last month where it was like, you know, we had to provide a refund, full transparency. We had to provide a refund to a client, a customer who felt that they just weren't getting what they needed because of a little bit of a miscommunication. Now, I didn't 100% feel that we didn't provide or communicate what it was, but guess what? We did the right thing. We gave her money back. And then we also took full accountability and responsibility and said, you know what? Maybe there's something we missed and we're going to get better because of it. And we made it a positive. We turned it into, you know what? There's a couple points she made that we got to look ourselves in the mirror and we have to say, am I being the best at the world at this? Did I put my best effort? Did I focus and deliver what I said I was going to deliver? The answer, quite frankly, was maybe we missed out on a couple pieces, but that's okay because that information helps us move to become great in the next one. And so that's what everyone has to do is they got to look at being a master at how can I take something that, yes, it don't feel good. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Those conversations are never fun to have, especially if you're competitive. But how can I take that and keep myself in a positive state of mind so that I can play the long game? Because if you don't do that, you're done.
yeah. And you remind me of a couple things. One is the quote that Tony Robbins says all the time is how many times would you give your baby the opportunity to try to learn how to walk? The first time they fall down, you're gonna say, no, you can't walk anymore. You're not a walker. No, they're gonna fall down. They're gonna hit their head. They're gonna, all those things are gonna happen. But that's the journey to walking. And I think the thing that a lot of people miss is that with Fiture, you built a great business. We built a business together. Things like that. What people don't see is all of the time, money, effort, everything that didn't work for years in order to get to this point.
Yep.
And the failures and all that kind of stuff. And so I think a lot of times when people are just beginning, there's this concept of like, I'm looking to hit the home run,
Yeah, right
but
away.
yeah, but first you got to learn how to make contact, and then you
Yeah.
can hit singles, and then maybe you get a double or a triple here and there, and then you can hit a home run. But there's a process, and
Yep.
like you said, everyone wants to skip the process, but that's a formula for failure. That's a formula for disaster. if you can approach it in this way where you're not thinking 3 months, but you're thinking 3 years, or 30 years, yeah, that gives you an advantage in the marketplace. And then the other thing that I think was important is you said with the refund we had to issue, right? Is like sometimes the obstacle is the way, which is a great book that I think every entrepreneur should read by Ryan Holiday. But it's like the biggest problem that you have is probably the biggest opportunity that you have if you can reshape
Yes.
the way that you look at it.
Well, and basically what you're saying is you're communicating, you need to earn your stripes. You can't go into this entitled and think that just because you have made a decision to build a business, that the universe should just open up for you with no resistance, no obstacles, and that it should be a straight line straight up when you can't possibly think of that and put yourself in a position to think that you're entitled to immediate success when you can look at people that like Jeff Bezos. Do you think Jeff Bezos built Amazon with no turbulence, with no obstacles, with no problems? You don't think he ever got sued? You don't think he ever had customers not paying when they were supposed to, or the products not get delivered, or maybe get a couple emails from customers saying you're the worst person on the face of this planet because you took my $20? Like this is what's going to happen. This is what business is. Business is this, right? And so you essentially have to earn your stripes as you're going through this. And that's why we're communicating that during times like this, these are the times where you got to roll up your sleeves and you got to basically say, all right, what steps do I need to take to make sure that I can stay in business and thrive in business? And how can I have the right mindset to accept obstacles, resistance, and figure out and maneuver a way around them because it's inevitable. You're not going to be able to get around them. And so I want to basically end this this podcast, this video, our deal here with my favorite quote that AJ tells me all the time from Frank Kern. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Yeah. Demonstrate that you can help people by actually helping them. And
Favorite quote of all time. And with that, we'll go ahead and end it. So once again, I'm Greg Marshall,
I'm AJ Lewis.
and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Later.